Hello and welcome to my podcast, Conversations with David. My name is David Owasi. I'm your host, and I am very excited about today's episode. I am with my good friend, mentor, someone I have huge respect for, Jeff Lopes. And Jeff, I'm very excited to have you on the show today. Why don't you share some more information about yourself?
I appreciate you having me on, and I appreciate our connection. I love what you're doing, David. My name's Jeff Lopes. I'm based out of fellow Canadian, based out of Toronto, Canada. I've been an entrepreneur for I always say 25 years, but honestly, it started when I was 17 and being 44 now, it's been a little over 25 years I've been an entrepreneur. I've always been the type of person I like building, but I get very bored of things and I end up exiting and finding an exit strategy out of everything I do pretty quickly. So in 2006, I once again starting to build something, thought it would be a very short-term project. And 15 years later, this January, we just hit our 15-year anniversary for a company called Kimurawear, where we design and manufacture boxing and martial art equipment. And it's been such a fun, joyful ride. And through that company, it's allowed me to have so many other different ventures. For example, in 9 years ago, we started a company called True Blue Homes, where we've been actually really investing in commercial and vacation properties and using them as passive income. So that's been another venture. And then in 2020, when the world got shocked with the pandemic, I decided this is a good time to start branding myself, because coaching is something I've been doing for a while. And I started my podcast, took pen to paper, wrote a book, started a platform called A Man's Purpose, is for entrepreneurial dads. I got certified as an NLP coach, life coach, and the whole process started. So it was 12 months of just really diving into the personal brand and personal development, and really passing on what I've learned as a dad and as a parent, but also as an entrepreneur for many years.
Absolutely. Thanks for the fantastic introduction there, Jeff. And we'll talk about some of those things you highlighted. And that's one of the things that drew me to you, the combination of being a dad, being an entrepreneur, and more importantly, being a Canadian entrepreneur, because oftentimes, people are just out there in the wild world, but not Canadian. So I really like that factor.
Yeah.
But I wanted us to start, Jeff, from just your start as an entrepreneur. Like a lot of people, they see the success you've had today, but they don't look at the journey, the years it take for you to get to where you are. I'm just very curious, why did you actually even got started as an entrepreneur in the first place? I know you started at a very young age, but what got you interested in entrepreneurship?
You know what? You could look back at so many little triggers as a youth, and I sit back and now that I'm in my 40s, and I could actually sit back and analyze the last 44 years of my life, and you could actually sit back and look at little triggers when, like, I was doing a part-time job when I was 16, and I have this crazy little story. I was working at a store called Zeller's. It was a stock boy, and it was like 9 at night on a Thursday or Friday night, and the manager said, "Hey Jeff, you got to bring all these kids out." And I wanted to punch out. I wanted to go home. I was tired. I'm like, okay. I run to the back, drummed the pump truck. So I was probably like 16. I started pumping out all these pump trucks, all these skids full of bleach, and I'm running down the aisles, and of course I tip one over. The whole bleach skid falls over into the women's department of clothes, ruins all this clothes, and it was such a big loud bang that all the staff, everybody was leaving, the cashiers, everybody kind of surrounded around me, and the manager comes and looks at me, and I still remember that it's so clear that his day, and he looked at me, he goes, "People like you are going to accomplish nothing in this world." And you take these little triggers, and they happen, and people don't realize them. They're indirect mentoring, and sometimes those indirect mentoring, whether they're good or bad, trigger so many other feelings and emotions in you. And I think so many little things like that happened when I was a kid allowed me to really hone into being an entrepreneur. And just even my environment, like my parents were blue collar workers. They worked so hard. And as hard as they worked and as much as they accomplished, I mean, they had their own house paid off, they had their cars paid off, but they never had that lifestyle and that freedom that they really wanted. So you see all these things, and I think all these things added up and started triggering me to try to do something on my own. And when I was 17, I actually registered my first company at 17. And it was just out of faith, right? I mean, I'll give you a little quick 2-minute rundown on that company. I used to go to a mall with my friends after school, high school, and it was a mall that a couple of my friends used to work at a couple of the part-time stores there, like some clothes stores, very small little mall, and we used to get along and talk to all the managers of the store, and the managers would always complain, like, all these kids after school, they keep coming here and stealing from 3 to 7 o'clock. We get so much theft. And I'm like, there's got to be a way to stop this. And I started doing a little research. I'm like, why don't you guys just put a security guard outside the door? Loss prevention. Kids are not going to go into your store if they see a security. They'll go into another store. Just prevention. And I said, okay, you know what? Called my dad up, said, Dad, I want to try something. He's like, what do you want to try, Jeff? And I've always had these little things I've tried. I said, I need about $250. And he goes, for what? I explained to him. So I went, I registered a sole business, paid $60 for the license. I bought these 3 or 4 security jackets. I bought these couple sets of walkie-talkies. And I hired all my friends, got some business cards, went to all the stores, and I started selling this service. And I was charging the store back then $13.50, and I was paying my friends, which was minimum wage back then, $6.25 an hour. Oof. And it was from 3 to 7 o'clock. And I started getting contract after contract. At one point, we have like 7 shops with contracts, and I ran that for about a year and a bit. But the problem is, my friends would call in sick. And then I had to cover the shift. And it got to the point I was working every night, and my parents were getting so frustrated. And they kind of like put the little push in me to get rid of it. But it's crazy is the gentleman that bought that company off me back then gave me $2,500 for that company, for the life of the group, for the contracts, or whatever you want to call them, and things. And I thought that was a crazy amount of money back then. And that I ended up paying my dad back and took that money and pocketed. And after all these years, which is 26, he still runs that company. He still has a successful business, which is pretty crazy. It was called Strictly Security Services. So that was my first real taste of it, of just being able to have employees, be able to see how you could profit money. And it just became a passion of mine. And from there on, it's just, I've never worked for nobody ever again. Right.
Wow, that is amazing. That's amazing. When I think about my own entrepreneurship journey, actually a lot of similarities to yours as well. I moved to Canada from Nigeria when I was 17. I got into university studying computer science and business. And then I figured I needed to learn some real life skills. And that got me into running a painting company, which I did for, 4 or 5 years. And I did, just shy of $1 million in revenue over that time period. But it was a great incubator for really learning what life was about and really making the most out of myself and believing in myself. Now, The question I have for you, Jeff, is, so for someone who's listening to us, they're 17, 18, 19 years old, they're thinking, do I want to do this entrepreneurship thing? How should they get started? What kind of problem should they start looking around them to solve? Like, you found a problem that needed immediate solution. How should they start approaching that?
I mean, there's 2 ways of looking at it. I mean, we could talk about finding a problem. We could talk about finding a passion. And a passion, I think, is the easiest route, because sometimes finding a problem, you're searching, you're not knowing what the problem is or not knowing how to solve it. It takes a little bit more experience in that aspect, right? Sometimes they fall in your lap and you see there's a need there. But I think having that passion is a great way to start a first business, because you're looking at it more the long term, because you know how it is when you start as being an entrepreneur, there's ups and downs, up and downs. And when you look at a year of past being an entrepreneur, how many wins, how many losses? You're going to have losses along the way. That's not even a question. You're just trying to stack up more wins than losses and be on the win column. So what having that mindset is, if you have that passion, no matter what, even those days that you have those downsides, those days that mentally you feel like you don't want to do this anymore, that passion will keep waking you up and keep driving you to look at the long haul of it all, right? So find something that you truly could wake up every day with a smile on your face, like, I'm doing something I love. Once you figure that out, it's just literally finding a need in the market for something you have passion for, right? And there's so many, you could look at one business and find so many different outlets that actually bring passive income from that business in a certain demographic, different area, right? So it's finding a passion, really toning on and focus on, and then also like setting your goals and looking at the long haul, because nothing builds overnight. I mean, those overnight success, I mean, as crazy as I really started branding myself in the last 13 months, 12 months, since last March, April, I started branding myself. And a lot of people never knew me, or all of a sudden like, oh my God, where'd you come from? Were you doing good? Like, yeah, my overnight success was 25 years in the making. 25, 44, 25 years I've been hustling and knocking on doors and winning and losing and sweating and beating myself. It's a long haul game, right? And that's why use crazy is some of the most successful entrepreneurs in the world, they only really hit the jackpot in their mid 40s, sometime in their early 50s, because it's a long haul. They've been at it for a while, but it's that one business that just turns everything around for them. So look at the long haul and follow your passion. That's the easiest way to look at it as an entrepreneur.
I really like that insight, Jeff. And let's kind of do a little bit of a deep dive into that. Yeah. So there's two different options here. You could follow your passion, or you could try and find a problem. And you're saying if you're starting out, it's probably more easier for you to follow your passion than to try and find a problem, which makes a lot of sense. However, I recently read a book by Cal Newport. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
The Passion Me. And it
But
really kind of, take that idea, and he basically was critiquing that idea that sometimes in your pursuit of just pursuing passion, you're not necessarily gonna find mastery in anything. Because for a lot of people, your passion over time might change. Like you might be interested in sneakers when you're a teenager, and then as you move into as you grow into adulthood, like you might just not be interested in that anymore. But where do you find that balance, especially as someone who is starting out? How do you find the balance of pursuing your passion, but also trying to find mastery in a specific skill set that will, be useful for you for a longer period of time, even if you lose the passion for that specific thing? I'm not sure if that makes sense, but how do you balance
no,
both
it does. It
approaches?
does. I mean, it's you have to look at it as an entrepreneur. I mean, if you are a true entrepreneur, and we could get into talking about that, whether you're born entrepreneur or not. But if you're a
Hmm.
true entrepreneur, be honest. Um, there's two parts of that I'm going to answer, but it's true entrepreneur. You are going to be trying different things. That's your natural thing, is you want to build, you want to grow. You once something starts doing well, and if you see there's an idea there, your natural mindset is to start drifting off. That is natural. Like I've had gyms, I've done event business, I've done a sports memorabilia business. It's always been at that time my passion, and then I lose my passion. So that is very correct. But there's nothing wrong with that. As long as the business is doing well and you figure out a way to exit from it, or figure out a way to actually pass it on. So there's nothing wrong with that. I think is, when you're looking at the long haul of an entrepreneur, there's going to be certain trades you're going to learn along the way, and those trades are obviously going to magnify, and some of them will translate to both businesses, whether it's sales, whether it's public speaking, whether it's coaching. As you get along and start mastering certain things, those things will escalate towards every single business. Now, in the word passion, I mean, there's so many ways to go with the word passion, David. And the way I look at the word passion is, you could have 10, 15 passions at one time. I hate when people say, "Oh, my passion is this, and this is my goal, and I want to serve 1,000. I want to change the lives of 1,000,000 people, and that's my only focus, my only passion." No, be honest. Your kids should be a passion. Your wife should be a passion. That business you're doing right now is to be passion. I love bike riding. That's a passion of mine. I love working out. It's another passion of mine. You can have so many different passions. And just as long as when you are doing that one passion, you're focused on it, you're direct to it, your attention is focused on it, and you block in the scheduled time to work on that.
Hmm.
So there's nothing wrong with having different passions, whether it's personal or business, or having passions in the business where I have a long-term and a short-term goal. This short-term goal might be this business, but the long haul goal is this business going to magnitude into another business. So I'm a strong believer that having the passion is just going to keep the wheels flowing. But along the way, you are going to be able to master different trades or different skills that you're going to be able to use your whole life, right? When I look at myself, 44 years old, am I still the drive and entrepreneur I was when I was 19? 100%. But now, obviously, in this last 25 years, I've learned a lot more skills. I've learned a lot more trades. I've learned a lot more patience. I've learned a lot more adaptability to circumstances. I
Hmm.
learned a lot more how to communicate with people, how to ask the right questions. So there's so many things you're going to learn as you get older. And some people are lucky enough that they surround themselves with the right people. And by getting mentors, getting coaches, surrounding yourself around other entrepreneurs with experience, that might save you so many years or so many errors. So that's
Hmm.
another positive thing, is surrounding yourself with the right around the people as you start getting into being an entrepreneur.
Absolutely. Those are amazing insights, Jeff. And what I'm hearing from you is you saying that you don't have to have one only single passion. You can have multiple passions and you can pursue
100%.
them independently and find ways to grow. And you're also saying that as an entrepreneur, if you feel like, a passion is kind of fizzling out, that is okay. You can always create an exit strategy and then move into something else that energizes you. I think that's
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
amazing insight.
Yeah. Or you could look at that business and see how it could escalate into another avenue or another area, or take that customer base and turn into another product. Like, there's so many different ways you could go about it to build that life up again. Sometimes you run a business where it's a product-based business and you've been selling the same product for how many years, and it's still doing well, but you're waking up every day and selling the same product. You get bored of it.
Hmm.
There's nothing wrong with that business. You might have to just change up the product, like with Kimurawear, where every 3 to 4 months we try to change up all our products, just add more life to the business, add more different view, different look, different touch, different texture. That just keeps the passion going, because now we have something new to look forward to, right? So you're
Absolutely.
constantly changing, right?
Totally, totally. And I want us to do a little bit of a pivot in our conversation here. I really am excited about your new book, A Man's Purpose. And I believe the book is,
No, it's entrepreneurial dad.
oh, I apologize. My bad. I was mixing your platform with your book. My bad.
I gotta send you one as well. 100%.
Yes, I would. I definitely love that. But I believe that the combination of the book is an approach to entrepreneurship, as well as sort of being a family person, being a dad, and just kind of combining the intersection of all of those. I find myself in that unique spot, being a dad, being an entrepreneur. Why do you think this book is very important, and what are some of the pillars of what you're trying to share in this book?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people. I mean, I use the word balance, and that's a word that from Gary V to I was just listening to a podcast last night, and guys like, there's no such word as balance when it comes to family, and I'm like, yeah, there is. There is. And just look at it. When I talk about family and when I talk about balance between lifestyle and business, it's essentially just you're trying to keep both at a certain elevated level. And there's nothing wrong with that. What I try to do and what I try to focus on, David, is I call it the non-negotiables. So I sit down and I really focus on what in my life is non-negotiable. Time with my family, time with my wife, time with figure out what's non-negotiable in your life. And then what I do is I plug those into my schedule. Those are my priorities. Everything else falls behind it, right? My health, mentally, spiritually, physically, eating right, working out, taking care of myself, taking care of my mind, being able to re-educate myself, integrate myself with tons of information. So all these things are non-negotiable. Those things are on my schedule every single morning. Now, a lot of people are like, oh, I don't got time for this, or I don't got time for that. You do. Because if you look at the most successful people in the world that have it all, they all have the same amount of thing, David. They all have 24 hours. We hear that all the time. So if there's one person who's successful, there's no reason you can't be successful. Is learning how to sacrifice. Like I'm up at 4:30 every morning, not because I love getting up at 4:30. It's because I realize if I sacrifice myself by getting up at 4:30, I'm able to allocate certain time afternoon, 3 to 7 or 4 to 7 with my kids every night. And because I'm doing that, it's just allowing so much more opportunity for growth from the family. And as long as you're mentally, spiritually, and physically healthy, you'll be able to serve your family and spend the time with them, have the energy for them. The business, everything else is still strive. It's still going to be there, right? And a lot of entrepreneurs, you see this, and this is what drives me crazy, is the divorce rate for entrepreneurs is about 33 to 36% higher than most careers or professions. And it's because that business becomes their baby. That business, that failure becomes such a fear that that's all they care about. And I got to always say is, if you're a true entrepreneur, just like you, just like me, you'll find ways to make money.
Mm-hmm.
Money comes and goes. Okay. What's the purpose of having this lifestyle, this house, these cars, if you don't have loved ones to share it with? You don't have loved kids to put a smile on your face every single day. You don't have that joy of coming home and seeing your partner, your wife, your spouse, whatever you want to call it, put a smile on your face and be happy to see you at home. So having all the money in the world and going home to an empty house, is that really you're living your purpose? And I always tell people, look at yourself on your deathbed and think of, well, how many people pass away every single day and the last thing in their head was all this regret? Live every single day with zero regret. And the easiest way to do that is have a happy environment, a happy lifestyle, a happy family life. Take care of yourself, take care of your health, take care of your mentally, spiritually, take care of yourself. Your business will come, your business will strive, man. It will do well if you actually do put the effort and care into it as well, right?
Absolutely, Jeff. That's an amazing point. And again, one of the things in your energy that really pulls me towards you is that approach of balance. Because I think we entrepreneurs, we have this idea of the hustle porn is what it's called, where you have to grind, you have to do like a 20-hour days, 16-hour days, and that is seen to be a good thing. But when you get to certain points in your life, like we are having our families, having our kids, all of a sudden your business is not the be end and end all. There are other things that are important, and you have to find that balance. And also, like something you mentioned there, and is very much aligns with one of the things I work with my clients. It's called the eulogy exercise, and it's from 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. And basically, the idea is saying that what if you get to the end of your life, what do you want to your family, your friends, people in your community, people in your work? What do you want them to say about your character, your achievements, and your contributions to them? And then when you're able to set aside all of those things, you're able to see that not everything is all about business and working. You have to spend some time with family and friends and other people. I think that aligns a little bit with your program and how you approach finding that balance, right?
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, 100%. I try to live with zero regrets. I have a very strong understanding how time is a currency and you can't
Mm,
get it back. And I live every single day with that mindset that I only have so many hours a day with my children. I'm going to be very present with them. I'm going to turn off my phone. I'm going to be present with them. I'm going to be outdoors with them. I'm going to go for a jog with them. I'm going to go for a bike ride with them. I want to make sure I'm very present with them, especially when they're young and their minds are still molding and they're becoming these young adults. I want to be that strong presence that will help them set the rest of their careers and their future in the right direction. Right. So I think that's very, very important. And having that mindset too is the way I look at it, David, when it comes to a business is you can't, like I'll give you an example, 2020.
mm,
I started in March. I mean, obviously March, the world went haywire and all my customers in Kimurawear were shut down. Gyms all shut down. I was like, oh, wow. My rentals, the government says short-term accommodation, STAs, you're not allowed to rent. That's shut down. I was like, okay, what am I going to do? So I re-strategized both businesses. I was able to pivot both businesses. I went B2C, really, instead of running away from the Kimura, I actually instilled a lot more money into marketing. The other businesses, I found a loophole in the system and I found a way to discontinue renting. So I was able to stabilize those businesses, not make a ton of money, but stabilize them so they weren't bleeding. And then I said, you know what, I'm gonna set some really good goals for myself. And I said, I want to get certified in a proper program, not a weekend program. It's like a 9-month program as a life coach, as an NLP, neuro linguistic programming coach. I wanted to start a podcast. I had a hefty goal. I wanted to do within the first 12 months, 100 episodes, and I wanted to hit 1 million downloads. That was a huge goal for me. I wanted to take pen to paper and write a book that become #1 seller. So I set these really hefty goals. I told the world about them. I literally told my friends, my family, I made myself accountable. I told the
mm.
world what my goals were. A lot of people be like, oh my God, those are crazy. You're trying to do this all in 1 year plus save your businesses. But I set a plan. I said, okay, 12 months. In the first 2 weeks, this is how many podcasts I got to record. This is how much I got to write in my book. And I started setting goals every week. And what I would do is I would block, and they're realistic goals, nothing crazy. I would block 20 minutes here to write. I would block 30 minutes here to tape a podcast. And I started doing them. And all of a sudden you start building that domino effect. And before you knew it, it was 3 months, and then 6 months. And by the time before I hit my 12-month mark, I accomplished all my goals, all of them. And it wasn't because this, oh my God, Jeff's so lucky. He got #1 seller in 11 categories with his book. Whoa. No, it was a plan, and it was planned properly, and it was a process put in place, and that process was executed properly, and the goal happened. If you put a plan in place, you execute it, you're realistic with it, it'll happen. Sometimes you got to modify it. It might take another month. It might happen a little faster if you get a little luck or something happens. And then on top of it is I made sure I networked myself with the right people to help me against the process. So you cannot win a battle or war by yourself. So I kept aligning and networking with the right amount of people that started supporting me and started seeing my vision and started helping me push and started giving me different entries or different things. So networking is a huge part of when you're trying to build a business, is networking with the right people that are going to guide you, show you, teach you, and help you speed the process up as well, right?
Amazing, amazing. That's just mind blowing, Jeff. Really, really inspiring. And when I hear what you're saying here, it basically makes sense because one of the recent books I read, Double Double by Cameron Harold, it talked about creating a vivid vision, just
Yeah.
kind of listing out everything you want and then reverse engineering it to what you have to do from today to reach your goal. And I think that's what you did. And I really, really like your rigorous scheduling or block scheduling method. It sounds like.
It's part of my lifestyle. I will not live without it. Everything is
Mhm,
blocked, and I'm very precise to it, David.
mm,
And if I block in an hour here, I make sure that hour when it's done is done. If
mm.
I didn't finish it, I'll start it tomorrow. I mean, the odd time I'll look at I'll look at the clock and be like, oh my God, I'm half an hour behind. But then I'll make it up at the end of the night. I will sacrifice myself when the kids go to bed for the extra half an hour, 40 minutes to make sure I finish it. But I try to really, really stick to my schedule and then try to be very precise with it because it just allows everything to flow. Because your day could just, especially as a busy entrepreneur with a family, with kids, with lifestyle, things start blurring together.
Mm.
If you're not very precise, lock, and follow, you could fall apart and you'll never end up getting your goals because one project kind of shifts into another project. All of a sudden you haven't finished this project, and then a week go by, and then you start losing that motivation. So you got to be very precise. So every little thing's a win. I think that's very important too, is take everything as a little win. So all of a sudden I set 5 goals for today. I did 5 wins. Let's go. We're on tomorrow, another 5 wins. Let's go. You start building that energy, that momentum, because everything's starting to happen. You're starting to see it all come to life, right?
Absolutely. I really think that is very important. And I think you mentioned it that really caught my attention, Jeff, was the idea of networking. And a lot of entrepreneurs, they always feel like, you know what, I just need to buckle down. I can get this done myself. And they pride themselves in the ability to just go the one route and do it themselves. So you're telling me that for you to be successful, you have to relentlessly network, meet other people. And how important would you say networking is, even like as we're in the pandemic right now? And how do you actually go about networking in the
Yeah.
pandemic?
So I want to say a few things. I mean, the pandemic has allowed networking to actually explode.
Mm,
Because prior to pandemic, I would network with local businesses. I would network with people in my industry. And the pandemic allowed me to really say, hey, let me look at my phone. Okay, I got all these followers. Like, why am I not making use of these people? Why am I
mm,
not talking to these people? And it allowed me now to start focusing and setting a plan in place. And I say, okay, every single week I want to actually network with 12 to 15 new people. That's my goal every week, 12 to 15 new people. And I start building these relationships and I start talking. Not all of them are going to go everywhere, but every week if I get one, two, and I'm like, you know what, that's a really good person that I can maybe see myself, like how we network. I can see myself working with even later on in life with other projects. So you start networking with people that are aligned with your vision, that have the same goal. I always say to people, and this is something I even talk to you about, it's like when I look at networking, I look at three different types of people. I go, one person that's at my level and we're running full speed through that course. And then I look at the people that are, hey, they're where I want to be.
mm,
And these are the people I'm going to catch up to. I want to learn from to speed up my process, but I'm going to pass them.
mm,
And then I look at people that are under me, because you don't forget about the people under you, because when you don't look back, sometimes those are the ones that are going to pass you. And network with them too, because they might have certain traits and techniques and stuff that they learned around their path that they could help with you and you could help them. But as long as they have the same goal, they might be behind you, but they're on the same path.
mm.
Set yourself with these three people that are on your path, they're ahead of you, behind you, or equal with you, and just network and talk and communicate and build relationships. And we live in such a small world now with the internet that we have no reason not to just keep building these networks consistently, right? And just
Mm.
growing with it.
Absolutely. And you've done an excellent job of doing that. You've been able to grow your Instagram following from, I'm not sure what it was before, to like over 30,000 people now.
It was 300 in April.
That's mind blowing. How do you even do that?
It's just networking, connecting. There's strategy behind it, obviously, with just how you post, how you do certain stuff, but it's just network. And look at every single platform as a different, even though I do the same posts on each platform, they have different audiences, right? And as you start growing, I'm really gonna start targeting on hitting different posts on different platforms. But LinkedIn is an incredible platform. Facebook is still strong, but
Mm,
it's just, you just have to be able to just utilize all these platforms. There's these free advertising. They're
mm,
free platforms that meet the show to advertise on. Utilize them all. Use Twitter. And I'm a strong believer that every time there's a new social media app that comes out, 80% of them never make it nowhere. But as soon
mm,
as I hear about it, I mark my territory. I get my real estate. I mark my name on it and I leave it there. If it ever becomes popular, I always tell people, you have your name already locked in there. So
mhm.
I do that. I did that with BitClout the other day. Like, I do that with everybody, and I don't use them, but I'll leave them there. And then as they start growing, whatever happens, happens, kind of thing, right?
Totally. That's an amazing insight, Jeff. And there's a lot for me to learn, and I'll keep learning from you how to grow my my following. But I wanted us to make a bit of a different pivot here
100%.
into emotional intelligence and mastery. And the reason why I think this is really crucial and important is, one of the big things you're passionate about is balance, right? So finding that balance as a business owner, as with your family and everything else going on around you.
Yeah, yeah.
And for me, I feel like, the place of finding that balance is through emotional mastery, because emotions are one of the things that are consistent in our lives, whether it's our family, business, everything going on. We have all these emotions, positive and negatives. But in your opinion, what are your thoughts on being able to find that, being able to master your emotions, and how that relates to finding the balance that you preach about in your life as as a business owner?
Yeah. I mean, that's something that we could talk, we could have a whole podcast on. And it is something where I feel like you need to have behind every strong entrepreneur, male or female, they have a strong spouse or strong partner usually behind them. And I think having that emotional understanding and emotional openness to have that conversations with your spouse, I think is very, very important. A lot of entrepreneurs have that mindset where they shut down and they just focus, focus, focus. And when they get home, they don't want to talk about their business, stuff like that. I do understand that, but you need to have that open dialogue and that have that balance, that anchoring point at your home. And me and my wife, I'll give you an example. What we do is every single night when the kids are going down, we go for a power walk. We'll literally go for a mile and a half walk. And that's our time just to let each other and like ask questions, let emotions out, let our thoughts out, ask advice from each other, even though we might not use them, but it's just a way of just opening up our dialogue. So I think having that strong emotional support at home is very, very crucial. And then another thing too is I always say is coming into your business every single day and coming back into your home at night with the right mindset. And somebody said this to me once, and it says, if you walk into your house looking for a fight, you're going to get a fight.
Hmm.
And it's very, very strong, because you're having that mindset where and I've done this for a long time, is when you get home, you don't realize all the stress, anxiety you've built throughout the day. And you walk into your house and all of a sudden you have this anger, this buildup, and you might not even say nothing to your family, just the way you throw down your bag, the way your kids, your wife, they sense this all.
Mm.
And then all of a sudden that the rest of the night is ruined at home. So having that mindset is when you get home, before you walk into your house, take 2, 3, 4, 5 deep breaths, let everything in your head and out of your head of what happened that day. And you walk in with a smile, walk in the smile, and everything, all of a sudden the kids smile back to you, and that night is going to be amazing. That goes on with your office too. If you got employees or you don't have employees, when you walk into your office, whether it's your home or having that smile and that energy inside you is infectious, and it'll pass on to everybody else, right? So I think when it comes to the emotions, is we are always going to go through roller coasters. It's knowing when to stop, take your time, open up and take a deep breath, and just, okay, everything's gonna be okay, and then reset yourself. I think that's the biggest thing, is we don't really have time or allow ourselves to reset ourselves sometimes emotionally. So like I said, if you are going through stuff, don't overreact. I try never to overreact. I try to actually sit back, analyze the situation, and then react to it when I'm in a more calmer state of mind.
Mm-hmm.
Go into your home every single night with an open smile, let all the crap outside first. And the same thing when you go into your office in the morning or your business, exact same thing, let everything out and then start fresh. And having that is a huge part of really controlling your emotions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those are amazing practical advice and insight into making that balance between your family life and your business life, coming from, of course, someone like yourself who's been at it for years. But let's break that down a little further, because when I think about emotional intelligence and emotional mastery, I'm typically thinking about 3 pillars. So I'm thinking about emotional awareness, which is really having an understanding of what's even going on in the first place. Because if you don't know what's going on, you're almost on autopilot. You don't know that you're reflecting negative or angry vibes to your family. You're not even aware of that, and that's one piece of it. The second piece is control. So you know what's going on. How do you put it under control to align with your long-term goals for that particular situation? And then the last piece is empathy. How do you put yourself in the shoes of other people so that you're able to relate to them on a level that you want them to, the way you picture it in your head is actually what's going on physically in the interaction. So I'm very curious when it comes to awareness, like for someone who doesn't even have the awareness to begin with, they don't even know what they're doing. They're not aware of what they're doing. How do they build that awareness?
Ask questions. Simplest things. Ask questions. That's the simplest things. You never know how other people are feeling until you ask the question. I go, that is one of the last lost arts, I think, in our society and in our younger generations. They don't know how to ask questions. And if you're open and honest with people and ask for open, honest dialogue, you're going to know how they're feeling, and you know how your reaction is turning into a reaction from them. So I think the first thing is knowing how to ask the questions. I think that's the simplest way to start the process. And when we talk about emotional awareness, is put yourself in anybody else's shoes. Sometimes you have to put yourself in the other person's shoes. A lot of people that come in and it's all about me, 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 me. You got to break that habit. You got to break that habit, because all you're doing is adding negativity in the world, because people sense that, right? People don't want to be surrounded with somebody that's all about them. If you're not giving back into the world, you're not giving positive vibes, you're not giving back energy, you're not helping other people, people sense that. People sense that, and you'll slowly see your circle of friends very, very quickly disappear. So being able to put yourself in other people's shoes. So if you're going through a situation or you see that somebody's not in there, and then your family or your employees or around you, or and they're not, something's wrong there. It's being able to ask the questions and then put yourself in their shoes and try to be empathetic and understand what they're going through your lens, right? So I think, like I said, the first thing is just ask the questions, because you'll never know truly till you start asking questions.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Questions are definitely a great way. You can assume all you like, but you don't know until you actually ask. And of course, asking in a way where you give people the space to be themselves without
100%.
judgment. Because if you ask and then you attack, then of course they're going to close up. And that thing, just to add to that point, Jeff, is I'm a huge fan of psychology, and I believe that doing like personality tests are really really useful as well in getting awareness. So, for example, a personality test will help you understand: are you more likely extroverted, introverted? How do you absorb information? Are you more intuitive? Are you more like sensing things with like your five senses? That's your primary way of absorbing information. Are you more of a logic kind of guy, or are you more of an emotional kind of person? And I think like taking like, for example, the Myers-Briggs personality type indicator test and the
Yeah.
enneagrams, those are usually excellent ways. They're not perfect by any means, but they give you like a base level understanding of yourself and how you react with the world. I'm not sure if that's something you're familiar with.
No, I mean, I know about them. I know tons of people have taken them.
Mm-hmm.
I've always been very aware. I think that's just one skill I've always had. I've been very aware of my surroundings, very aware of how my mind and my body reacts to certain things. And don't get me wrong, there's times when stress overwhelms, and I think we all go through that, where you need to take a deep breath, and you have those nights where you don't sleep. Everybody goes through that, but I would think majority of the time I have a higher understanding of what triggers me, what emotionally pushes me, what emotionally satisfies me. So I think I've learned to understand myself. So I've never done one of those tests, but I mean, I do agree, having an understanding of those patterns in who you are will help you strategize and figure out your best route, whatever you're trying to accomplish, right?
Absolutely, totally agree. And yeah, for me, those tests were like amazing for me. But
Yeah.
again, as an entrepreneur, you are actually forced, because for you to be successful, you have to understand yourself at an in-depth level.
100%.
Otherwise, you won't find success. Now, the second thing here, Jeff, is the control piece. Okay, now you have an awareness of what's going on, but that doesn't mean you can actually put it under control to reach your long-term goals. In your opinion and based on your experience, how have you learned to subject emotional turmoil, whether it's positive or negative? How are you able to put them under control to reach your long-term goals? How do you approach that?
I mean, like I said, when it comes to time, I look at time and I always say this, like, you're not going to be able to change your past.
Mm-hmm.
So when something does happen, to dwell on it, to overthink it, to overprocess it, it's not going to change it. And I always have that mindset, David, is when something does happen negatively, I'll dwell on it. Don't get me wrong, I'm human. I'll dwell on it for a couple hours. I'll dwell on it sometimes for a day. But I
Mm-hmm.
also realize very quickly, this is not going to help get me to my final goal. By me dwelling on this, I'm thinking of my past. I got to look at my step forward. I got to take my next step forward all the time. So I'll just analyze it. I'll learn from it, and I'll put it away, and I'll put it in my suitcase and forget about it and not even think about it. And I have that strong approach where I don't allow my past to control my future. So what I do is when I am in an emotional stressed moment, I'll analyze it. If I need extra help, I'll reach out to somebody. And don't be fearful to talk to people. That's rule number one too, is don't be fearful to ask for help. So I'll get around the right people, and emotionally, physically, I'll just let my body just heal, whether it's a couple hours, whatever it is, put it behind me, and then start moving forward towards my goal. So if you do that very quickly and really just put it behind you quickly and realize you can't change it, what did I learn from it? Analyze it, break it down. What did I learn from this lesson? What did I learn when that person did that to me? What's going to stop me from allowing this to happen again? Learn from it. And then you're still going to be looking at your goal because it happened very quickly. But when you take a situation and you dwell on it for days and days and days and days and emotionally drains you, that goal starts getting farther and farther ahead. It seems further and further harder to reach.
Mm-hmm.
So I say is really, really target on what just happened, learn from it, put it behind you, and your goal is still ahead of you. Just keep going, keep catching up to it. What's the next steps? Maybe you have to reassess your goal and make it a shorter term goal, and just keep going. And that's why I always talked about is looking at everything as little wins. Because if you could really sit back at the end of the day, which I like to analyze my days at the end of the day, and I sit back and say, okay, you know what? 15 things occurred today. 4 bad. We have 11 good. We have a lot more wins than the negatives. Let's focus on the positives. Let's move on till tomorrow. Because a lot of people, they won't look at the 11 wins. They'll look at the 4 losses and really let them drag them down and really start start allowing other people's thoughts and process of how people feel about them, drag them down. You really, it isn't everything. We can even talk about that all day, is stop giving a shit what people think. The minute you could really take what other people's feelings and thoughts of are you and just throw them out and not give a shit about them, that's a huge boost on your ego, and that's a huge way that's going to propel you a lot further forward as well, right?
Absolutely. That's an amazing insight. I really like, the insights you shared there, Jeff, about the idea that you can control everything, and dwelling on things that are outside of your control is almost like, well, it's basically wasting your time and your resources and your energy, because you can't do anything about it while dwelling on it. I really appreciate that. And just now in the book that I was referencing earlier, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey, talked about proactivity. And proactivity is all about you taking the initiative to move your life forward, even when things around you are not working the way you want them to be. Like you said, taking the little wins and moving forward with that, I think is really, really important for control. Because if we feel that everything has to go our way, I think there's some level of pride in that, assuming that we can control everything. Like sometimes things won't just work out, friendship won't work out, businesses won't work out. And when we have that humility to know that, well, that's out of my control, how can I move forward? Then we can really start taking control of our lives. I'm sure you'll agree with that.
I always say this, and some people don't have the understanding of this, and I have a strong understanding of this, and I've had it for God as long as I can remember, even as a kid. I don't know why I've always had this mindset. And I'll give you an example. Is my wife. If my wife has a friend for 15 years and for some reason that friendship breaks, she is devastated. It's like the world has ended. And I'm the type of person where I have a very strong belief that everybody has a purpose in your life. If I meet somebody at a grocery store and they're in line and I'm having a shit day and they smile at me, and that 1 minute changed my outcome of the day, they had a purpose in my life. If I have a friend in my life for 10 years and all of a sudden they are out of my life, those 10 years, there's a purpose. Now they're not in my life. There's a reason for that. Let's move on to something else. You're going to meet millions of people in your life. And I think we as humans have to understand that emotionally we have to keep that in their perspective, that everybody and everything that happens to us, there is a purpose for it. And we just have to identify that purpose, appreciate that purpose, and move on from that purpose and go on to the next thing. So don't dwell on when things don't happen right or wrong, or if something good is coming to an end. That's okay. Understand? It is okay. It's just the cycle of life. Just move on and be positive with it.
Absolutely, couldn't agree more. And that thing, also, just as we're talking about emotional masteries, we talked about empathy, right? And that's sort of the last pillar, if you will. And as business owners, it's actually beneficial as business owners to have empathy, because with empathy, we're able to really put ourselves in the shoes of our customers to really address the need. Because a lot of businesses, they solve a problem that they think is a problem of their customers, but they're not really putting themselves in the shoes of their customer to understand the problem. What would you say is the role of empathy in successfully running a business and a business operation?
I mean, empathy and vulnerability are two words I really, really strive to incorporate in everything I do in my life, right? Being vulnerable, vulnerable, empathy, and authenticity. And with empathy is having that understanding that especially when you're looking at, if you're a brand or you're a marketing agent, whatever you do, once you're dealing with customers, you have to have that mindset that you cannot be fearful and fearful to ask questions. I talk about questioning and hear what the feedback is, hear what they like, what they don't like, have that empathy to understand that what they are going through, what their challenges are. If you're trying to solve a problem or trying to add a service to their problem, being authentic in a way that you truly care about what their feelings are and what they're going through is it goes a long way, a long way. People really could, and part of my language on your podcast, smell shit from a mile away. And if you don't have that empathy and authenticity and their vulnerability, people could see that very quickly. So you have to be real. That's the easiest way to be, is have to be real and really care about your customers' mindset. Because as you grow, it's so easy to start forgetting about customers. It's so easy to start forgetting about the littler guys. And those are the ones you start with. Never forget that. I have customers from Kimurawear from 15 years ago that we have incredible, strong relationships with. And those customers, they might have only order a small amount, $200-300 a month, but they've been with us for so many years. Those are so precious to us. It's not about the big dogs, it's about everybody along the journey. So having that empathy and understanding for people and what they're feeling, what they're thinking, and how your service or product is making a change in life or not making a change in life, and be able to change your product or service to make sure it's valid on their side is very, very important.
Absolutely. I think that's a very crucial advice. And thanks for sharing the example with your own business. Now, as we're going towards the end of our chat here, it's, 50 minutes have
Yeah.
just gone by so quickly. I want you to share some more information about the community you created, which I am part of, and I'm absolutely loving it. It's a community of entrepreneur dads. Can you just share more about that to people who are listening and sort of in that space in their life?
Yeah. So I mean, for 12 years, and part of my story with my son, for 12 years, I've really focused on reading and learning and intaking as much as I possibly could when it came to the parent and fatherhood space. And I tried to learn as many different ways to build memories, the different ways to ask questions, many ways to help your children go through certain situations, certain stresses, and also as a family man as well, right? So I went through all these and I learned them all, and then I took 25 years of being an entrepreneur. And what I did is for the last 3 years is I really toned into coaching, and I really took a lot of young entrepreneurs under my wing, and I built some of them up to 6-7 figures. I never charged a penny for 3 years. And it was my way of just learning the process, learning the program, really building up testimonials and all that stuff. So when I was ready to build this platform, I wanted to build something that you're joining something where financially it's not going to stress you out. Because I think right now, the coaching world, it's so elaborated with these high ticket price coaching, and people go in there and they get lost. They get lost in the whole system. And I want to do something that's they're not financially going to think about it, but they're going to get so much value out of it. Whether you're just there for the community, whether you're there to hang out with other incredible entrepreneurial dads, whether you're there for weekly to actually learn a lesson, whether and I'm very open. It's like I send my everybody has my cell number, and you haven't, but other people are texting me all the time. Like, can you help me with this? And I'm helping people. I have another gentleman that just joined, and he's like, Jeff, I have these products in my warehouse. I can't sell them. I'm like, okay, no one. Send me some videos and I'll put them through my social media. I'll help you sell them. It's all about helping each other and building this awesome community of entrepreneurial dads. And it's called, the website is jeffreylopes.com. It's JEFFREYLOPES. And it's $47 a month. And you're literally getting a ton of stuff. And there's other people that do it for our accountability program. So part of it is we have 5 questions we ask you every single week that holds you accountable to reaching your goals. Because I think a lot of entrepreneurs, you're not one of them, but a lot of them don't know how to hold themselves accountable. And they need that accountability. And some people are joining it just for that weekly accountability, because we email you back all your questions and we check them and make sure you're reaching your goals. So there's different ways people are utilizing it. And it's just, like I said, I just want to build this amazing community of entrepreneur dads like you, David. They're just going to grow. And eventually, to be honest, the plan is eventually, as the community starts growing, I'm hoping people like you will actually join and start being coaches in the program. We start building a whole society that we could go literally global with this, with having other people part of it. Because I'm all about sharing, and I'm all about growing and building this kind of little massive community where everybody is profiting, everybody's building together, right? So there's so many different goals I want to do with it. And the thing about me, and you'll learn this very quickly, is when I put my head to something, it gets done. There's no question. There's zero question this will get done. And so I'm excited about the future of Man's Purpose.
Absolutely, and I am excited to be part of the community. I highly recommend this group. I've been part of it for a couple of weeks now, and the networking and the people I've met with, amazing people, and of course, just the accountability part of it as well is really been very important to me as well. But for me, I think it's just a community. For me, community is king, and when you meet with people who think the same way you do, who are hustling in their own different genres like you do, it just inspires you and even motivate you to want to keep on going. So I really appreciate it, and I know I'll keep recommending your group to everybody.
I appreciate that.
In my network. Well, it's 11:53 here, so Central Time. So almost done here. Any last words of advice, wisdom, insight you'd like to share to our listeners before I let you go here?
Yeah, I mean, 2020 was a year that if you're looking at your business and your business was struggling, learn to pivot.
Mm,
Learn not to be scared to pivot your business. And even if your business was doing well and did well and stride well over 2020, you keep looking at different ways to pivot and bring passive income, because passive income is king when it comes to really growing other parts of your business. And if you're a dad, be present, man. When you're home, put away your phone,
mm,
spend time with your kids. 90% of the FaceTime, there's a stat, 90% of the FaceTime we spend with our children is before the age of 18. Be aware of
mm,
that. Be aware, and be aware of your spouse as well. I mean, be
mm,
aware of what your spouse or your partner is feeling and thinking. And it's very easy to think everything's okay till one day you get those divorce papers in the mail. So just be aware of what they're thinking, what they're feeling, and be true to yourself. And every single day, if you do that, I mean, life will be a wonderful. And I just want to say, I appreciate you, David. I appreciate you being part of our community. I appreciate everything you're doing. I mean, I'm become a fan of yours. I mean, I love everything you're doing. I think you have such an incredible, bright future, and I'm looking at it being an anchor to help you extend that, but also as a friend and grow as friendship as well. So tons of value. Anybody following David and everything David's doing right now.
Thank you, sir. I really appreciate the kind words. And, the advice here you gave, put your phone away in the evening. I struggle sometimes to put away my phone.
God,
That last email to check or that one little update.
it'll still be there in the morning, David.
I know. It's just,
It'll still be there in the morning, buddy. Yeah, I'm 44. I've learned that it'll still be there in the morning.
thanks for
You
the,
know,
the, the reminder.
right? People have to understand and be patient, because things all come, and sometimes, you know what, one thing I say, and I'm going to actually talk about tomorrow in our meeting, is learning how to take a vacation every day. And
Mm,
David Milzer is very key on saying this on a regular basis, and he's somebody I became friends with over the years and the last year. And it's understanding that taking a vacation every day. What I mean by that is, even if you take 10 15 minutes for yourself, just clear your head, go for a walk with the dog, go throw some basketball, whatever you take as, this is my time. I take a hot bath. I love hot bubble baths. I'm man enough to say that I love my hot bubble baths. It's just finding what you like to do for 10 15 minutes and just try to do it on a regular basis. That is your time just to reset, refresh. I think that's another very, very valid thing as an entrepreneur. Our lives are so busy. Our lives are
mm,
just go, go, go. If you're a really successful entrepreneur, you're running 24/7. So knowing how to shut yourself down, how to be present with your family, and how to take some time for yourself, I think this is so valuable over the long haul, and keeps those extra years on that body, right? As your body starts wearing down, it'll help in the long haul. Believe me, at 44, like I'm 44. I just ran a marathon the other day with my son. Like I'm still very active,
mm.
and it's because I'm very persistent on realizing what's important in my life.
Absolutely. Last thing, I couldn't help but observe your shirt. Are you a soccer fan, like football fan?
A little bit, nothing crazy. I just love this. I love the Netherlands jerseys. I love the
Okay, yeah,
Netherlands stuff. So
yeah.
the color wise, my dad coming from a European family. I'm Portuguese. My dad's a very valid soccer fan. But I've had the pleasure to meet Pele. I've had the measure like meet quite a few
No
athletes.
way.
Yeah, yeah. It's on my Instagram page. I'll send you a picture. But I've had the
That's
pleasure of
amazing.
meeting a lot of athletes. So
Mm.
yeah, yeah. But I do watch it. But I'm more of a World Cup, Euro Cup, jump on the bandwagon and cheer for Portugal or whatever. But everybody loves Netherlands, right? Netherlands, one of those countries, everybody jumps on the bandwagon. When their countries out, most people like Netherlands after that, right?
Yeah, yeah, that's right. The Dutch are one of the most popular teams, certainly. It's been such a huge pleasure, Jeff, having you on the show. Thank you for sharing all of your wisdom and all of your insight. I'm super excited for all of my listeners to hear you and your insights, and to, of course, connect with you. And I'll be sharing your links in the descriptions for this episode. But thank you for
I
coming on.
I appreciate you, brother.